Hey guys, Metal Driver here bringing you an easy tutorial on how to fix loose joints in your figures. Now, there are two methods that I typically use. The first method is the superglue method, in which you apply superglue to the loose joint. It could be a hinge or a ball joint. And what you would want to do is move that joint around. So if I were to do this with this Hangman page, I would apply the superglue to the ball joint here, and I would want to move around that joint as the glue dries. And what that does is when the glue dries, it creates this layer of residue that allows for more friction between the plastics. So then the plastics around the joint end up being a little tighter and not feeling as loose. Now that method is effective and quick. However, there is a drawback in that you risk damaging your figures. More specifically, you can have breakage or freeze the joint in place.
Miss Hoover? I glued my head to my shoulder.
So it actually happened not too long ago. I was using that method here with my Undertaker figure. I was trying to tighten up this hip joint, or the leg here at the hip, and I thought the glue had fully dried, and so I put this figure aside, and then the next day when I came to check on it, I realized that the glue was actually still drying when I put it aside, and it froze the leg in place, so I ended up snapping this. So as I said, super glue is effective, but it is risky. So now the second method that I use is the Pledge Floor Care method. As you can see, the bottle is right here. This is the exact bottle that I use. This can be found at most stores that sell cleaning supplies, so something like a grocery store or a Walmart. And the great thing about this method is that it is 100% safe in that it does not break your figure, or it doesn't ruin the joints or freeze the joint in place. So it is a safe method. The only drawback is that it takes a little bit longer for it to dry, typically about 24 hours. Depending on how much of this substance you're using on the joint. So if you use a lot, it could be 24 hours or maybe a little bit more. If you use a small amount, it could be less than 24 hours. So typically I wait about a day after applying this to my figures. So the tool that I like to use with this is a simple Q-tip right here. So generally most people will have these lying around their house. You could also use a small paintbrush, that works as well, but I think a Q-tip will work in this case. And I like to use these are pretty simple. And then before I go ahead and show that, just want to show you Adam Page. So the legs are slightly loose on mine. I mean, they're not as tight as I would like. They're not the worst. But I have noticed that a lot of these AEW figures, the legs tend to be loose on some of them. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. That way we can make this better. So I'm going to go ahead and open this Pledge Floor Care up. And go ahead and dip the Q-tip in the solution. So I'll move that to the side so that way you can get a look at the Q-tip if this focuses. There you go, you can kind of see the solution on there. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and rub this right here onto the ball joint. So I'll move the Q-tip a little bit around. You can kind of see the liquid, it's a little bit shiny and wet in there. So I'll go ahead and rub that again. Alright, then I'm going to dip this in one more time so that I can get the other ball joint. Go ahead and just push the Q-tip in. Move it around, just kind of press onto that. So that way, there you can see that liquid in there. Now, after I do that, so I don't really move the legs around too much. I might just move it, spread it out like this, move it up once on each side, and then I'm going to leave this here on my table for about a day. So we're going to go ahead and wait one whole day, and then we'll see the results and see how tight this ends up being.
24 hours later.
Alright, we are back after waiting an entire day for the Pledge Floor Care to dry. So let's go ahead and check out the Adam Page. Alright, if you remember the legs here, they weren't completely loose, but they were easy to spread apart. Whereas here, it's a little bit stiffer now. So especially this leg here, looks like that really dried very well, so that's a lot tighter. So now looking at the leg going up, so there is more friction here at the legs, so that is good, so it is a bit tighter. Now if the legs were too loose, or they weren't tight enough, at least to your specifications, you can always add more Pledge Floor Care. Again, you'll have to wait a little bit longer, but the legs are not loose at all. They don't really shake around. You can see that they are still pretty much in place. Again, It was very easy to move these off to the side. Not so much now. And I also wanted to show you my Luchasaurus, so I did use pledge floor care on this as well. So these legs were very loose. Now these are much tighter, so they're a lot stiffer. They don't shake around. So I actually used pledge floor care on this a while ago. So you can see that the residue here, in between the legs, you can see a little bit of that around the ball joints. So it has stayed in place and dry for quite some time, so this is good. This method is 100% safe. Your figures will not break, unlike with the super glue method. The only downside to using pledge floor care is that you do have to wait a bit on it to dry. Now, if you do use too much and a little bit of that liquid leaks onto the rest of the plastic, that's not a problem. You can just wipe it up. Again, it doesn't ruin the figure, doesn't ruin the paint. I haven't had any issues so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and move that bottle here, right in the middle. So this is the bottle that I use, pledge floor care multi-surface finish. As I said, you can find this at most stores that sell cleaning supplies. I think I bought this one at a grocery store several years ago, and it has been working for me ever since. So let me know in the comment section below, have you ever used this method? Do you plan on using this method now that you've seen this video? And also, what are some ways that you fix your figures? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Hopefully you found this information useful. Maybe I'll make another tutorial video in the future on how to loosen tight joints, because I actually have 2 methods on how to do that. So let me know if you're interested in that, and I'll see you next time.